Well, my worst nightmare just happened. Leviatán won VCT Americas. And before I start getting hate from the half of LATAM players who love this team, let me say that it has nothing to do with the players. I love the players. They're very good at what they do. My frustration comes from the fact that Leviatán as an organization has set a precedence that I'm not particularly a fan of, and that is picking up guys from outside of the region in order to create a stronger team. But as someone who's not afraid to being wrong, it did elevate players like Mazino. So I will give credit where credit is due. Mazino kind of shined way more in this team because of having foreign players and them elevating the level of play for those guys as well. You would hope that this would be brought over back to LATAM, but that's a story for another video. It'll more so clarify like why I have such a problem with Latin American organizations picking up North American players, and it's not all just Leviatán's fault. It's also the fault of Riot Games and the way the Americas is structured. Anywho, going back to Leviatán. Leviatán started out as a super team, in everybody's minds. They had ASPAS, the amazing player from Loud. They had Kingg, who was known to be a very good caller. And you had Tex, who was the Ascension's winner from, the Guard. So it seems like everything was going right. Then we had that bizarre story with Nauser and ASPAS, and there was a rumor that ASPAS was threatening to leave. So the chemistry, starting out, was chalked, especially when Com came in basically last minute to join the team. It was just a bizarre situation. It was uncomfortable, and you could definitely tell by the way that they played that kickoff tournament, because they got slapped by Loud. Well, not slapped. It was a 2-1. But they lost to Loud, and then they lost to Sentinels, which, funny enough, would end up being the two teams that would go to Masters Madrid. But, still, they were in that group of death, so they at least showed some promise. And I think when the stage 1 started, we kind of started to see that super-ish team that we were promised. I mean, they lost to Cloud9, but Cloud9 were on a roll. They would end up going 5-1, I'm pretty sure. I'll correct it if I got it wrong. But then you had them going up against Sentinels, against NRG, and they beat both of those teams. Obviously, Sentinels and NRG were kind of on a downslope, but I don't think that takes away from Leviatán's accomplishments. They would beat G2, who were also on their way to become a incredibly disciplined team. Crew, man, those games with Crew have been bangers for the most part. Maybe not on the following time that they would play each other, but definitely that first time they played, those games were amazing. And it is kind of just like the LATAM rivalry. People are overusing the word El Clásico. There's only one El Clásico, which may never happen again, but that's not the point. They would lose to 100 Thieves and then get eliminated by G2. So, today was kind of like a revenge match for them. They would still qualify to Master Shanghai, but unfortunately they wouldn't really do much except beating T1, which is not particularly impressive, but they would at least have a decent showing against Gen G. But Gen G is very good in their own right, so it makes sense. They had stiff competition. Foot is still very good. Come on, it's seen it, but man, that 1-in-13 map, I was ready to rip into them so badly, but they actually did play fairly decent on the following 2 maps. It's just unfortunate that they let it slip so badly. And I thought this was gonna be it, and then they fired their head coach, and I was like, oh dude, it might be chalked. It might be chalked. But to my surprise, I'm gonna totally butcher his name, so I'm not even gonna say it. But then the assistant coach that turned into the head coach, I don't know what sort of black magic he ended up working, but my goodness, he completely turned this team around. But I also think it's partially because the chemistry was also improving with these players. Like I said, they seem to have crashed out a little bit during kickoff. They found their rhythm during stage 1, and then in stage 2, they amped it up. They didn't lose a single map all the way into the playoffs, which is insane. ASPAS did that back all the way with Loud during Challengers, when we didn't even have a franchising system. So, I mean, that is incredible in its own right. And then playoffs, I mean, yeah, they struggled. They didn't struggle at all against Crew. I mean, they whooped their asses. And then against G2, yeah, G2 was prepared. G2 looked the best that they have ever looked against Leviatán. And it's partially their discipline and partially, you know, that they also have very good players. Go back to the Crew match, and holy man, edge of the seat matches. And you know, we got all 5 maps, so both of these teams were very, very good. And I'm glad that Leviatán, in some sense of the word, is elevating Crew. I don't know, because it's the rivalry, or because these are just 2 very good teams. You know, I know some people just love dogging on Crew because, oh, they qualify for champions and that's all they do. But I do think that this team has some potential to upset some of these teams. In, you know, Group A and B are like groups of death. It sucks. But I'm going to be rooting for Crew Esports. Obviously, I'm going to be also rooting for G2, Sentinels. And I know everyone's going to ask, are you rooting for Leviatán? You know, despite me not liking this organization, they are still part of the Americas. So I will obviously still be rooting for them if they're like the last bastion of the Americas. Americas teams for me will always come before anybody else. And you know, they have some likable characters. They have ASPAS, who was like the clutch god from Loud. They have Kingg, who I think is a great IGL. You know, I may have dogged on him in the past, but you know, I usually only talk about him during haters guides, and the point of those are to hate on him. I know I don't hate on everybody all the time, but you know, it's Leviatán. I gotta hate on them a little bit. They have Com, which he seems like a really cool dude. I mean, I've seen some of his streams. I've seen obviously his journey through EG. So there's no reason for me to hate on him. Even when, you know, trash talking was at its high, he always seemed to be a pretty humble guy. And, you know, he defended himself today during the interview where he said that he, despite having bad statistics, he still won. Yeah, absolutely. Talk your shit, King. Talk your shit. And yeah, I mean, Mazino completely stepped it up. And, you know, Tex is always a good player. I think him and G2 are tied together like crazy, and you could see that you know, both those teams making grand finals of Americas. So I think it's pretty cool, and it's kind of like a mini rivalry going on between those two teams. You know, Leviatán may have won a couple more times, but you know, it's fine. And to talk about G2, just, you know, so I can squeeze them in here, I think they're still learning. And I know that's crazy to think about. And I really do think that this org, these teams, these players, do deserve a place in franchising. Not just as like a guest spot, but as a permanent fixture in our esport. Because it would just be a crime to see all of this work go away because they had one bad season, because they had one bad split, because the format did not allow G2 to stay in franchising. I think it's a waste of a slot. I think it's a waste of an opportunity. And I think a lot of people are already invested in G2. As far as them like choking, I mean, guys, they give us some banger maps. You guys are gonna be mad because they had a bad performance on the last map? I mean, come on. I'm still gonna be rooting for these guys. I've seen the level of discipline that they can show, and I think they are still very much a top team to possibly win Seoul. So I'm very excited. You know, VCT Americas ending, it's a little bittersweet. I mean, obviously, I think I burned out a little towards the end of just like so much Valorant, and you know, that's fine. I think Champions is gonna kind of revitalize that a little bit. I'm, you know, super forward looking to the tournament. I know you guys are excited about the Haters Guide, and that's coming. And yeah, I think the spread of teams is incredible. I'm super excited to show you guys some of the videos that I have coming up with some amazing guests. And yeah, VCT Americas, it didn't go well for me as an NRG fan, but I think everyone had a good time. And if you enjoyed like any of the videos that I made throughout the season, the Americas videos or the Congratulations or anything like that, you know, a like, a comment, and obviously a subscribe. Super appreciated. I can't wait till Americas next year. You know, hopefully NRG has a better team, or hopefully Ye comes back, or something exciting to happen. But I think there's a lot that is still in store for us with this Champions tournament, and I'm excited. And Leviatán, there's only one thing to say for you. Congratulations.